The players are in readiness down to the feature match area, so let's get to it. It's time for Good Morning Magic here at GP Prague. What's up, nerds? Welcome to the feature match area, and look at these players ready to go here at GP Prague. Round number 10 is coming your way as part of Good Morning Magic with me, Riley Knight, and with Simon Gertzen, my good friend and colleague, and also, incidentally, a Pro Tour champion. On the screen, we have Dennis Rosinski on Amulet Titan and Wayne Dillian Click Dylan, a good friend of mine who's playing Jeskai Thing. Do you understand this deck? Are you across what it does? Or
it has 3 colors.
Yes.
Blue, white, and red.
Uh-huh.
And Thing in the Eyes.
It does, yeah. I wasn't sure if you'd get it because, it's a bit of a Jeskai thing. But it's good that you're across it. So, Wayne Dillon, originally out of Northern Ireland, out of Northern Ireland there, he has made the jump across the Irish Sea towards Scotland, where he lives now in Glasgow. And previously featured in previous modern GPs, a big fan of the card Vendilion Click. He got the nickname Wayne Dillian Click from you, Simon.
Yes.
But today it's a bird of a different feather for him today. Jeskai Thing in the Ice. So the secret bit of tech that we're going to see out of this list is Pyromaster Ascension. Obviously synergizing enormously well with all the cheap instants and sorceries in the Jeskai colors, one of which is Opt, as you can see. And Wayne's been on a tear. He was 7-0 before picking up a couple of losses, but he's made a very convincing performance with this highly unusual list. Simon.
4 Pyromancer Ascension in that deck. That's a really high amount. It's almost like a Storm deck, but you are not killing with Storm cards. You're killing with Awoken Horror, the flip side of Thing in the Eyes. Interesting.
Another piece of technology in this one, of course, is Bedlam Reveler. This is a deck that looks to empty out its hand pretty quickly, and Rosinski is going to face the wrath of this with a Lightning Helix taking down his only creature. Looks like there's a follow-up play here for Rosinski with an Explore. Amulet Titan isn't a deck that we see a lot of these days. Since the banning of Summer Bloom, it certainly has become a lot worse than it used to be. Simic Growth Chamber now returning the Slayer's Stronghold. Classic pattern from yesteryear.
Yeah, actually interesting that this is still being played. It was so off the radar. How long ago?
2 years. 2.5, 3 years.
Maybe more than 2. Yeah.
Yeah, it's been a while. It's been a while.
And it has certainly gotten worse. Summer Bloom really made this deck absurdly powerful.
Yes, and without the Summer Bloom, of course, as you say, it is a lot worse than it used to be. Now, Dylan's hand, as you can see, full of cheap instants and sorceries plus that Pyromancer Ascension. Now, the thing with this list is, as you can expect, all of the instants and sorceries, I mean, the most expensive one, they cost 2. So Manamorphose, Lightning Helix, Remand are the most expensive instants and sorceries. And they're all 4-ofs, Simon.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, you have to play 4-offs because the Pyromancer Ascension rewards you for having multiple copies of your spells.
Dylan taking a much more conservative role here as he looks to play a more controlling game. He does have a Pyromaster Ascension in hand, but he's choosing not to deploy it. He bins a Path to Exile as well with that Faithless Looting.
Path to Exile not at its best when you're playing against Amulet Titan.
No, I mean it can take down a Primeval Titan, of course.
The problem is if you're playing somewhat of a control deck, once the Titan comes down in the Amulet Bloom deck, you're either dying on the spot or they're building such a huge advantage that you are not really coming back from.
That's right. They go and get something like a Teleria West, which they can then bounce with a bounce land and then go and transmute that away for another Summoner's Pact. Here is that Summoner's Pact. Going to get a Sousa Lost but Seeking. A couple of extra land drops a turn for Rosinski here. And he's got the mana to cast a Sousa right now. So we could see him really explode when it comes to his mana development. Dylan may have a response, though. He plays 4 copies of Remand.
That's a really good answer to this Azusa here, because it will mean that Dennis has to spend his whole next turn paying for the pact.
Looks like Dylan has a response as well here. And it is going to be that remand that you mentioned. So a nice tempo play here from Dylan. I mean, obviously that doesn't keep the Asusa from the battlefield ultimately. But what it does do is, as you say, tie up Rosinski's mana for another for the next turn.
Good technical play by Rosinski as well. Playing the bounce land before playing Azusa, because otherwise the fact that that's a land that enters with a trigger gives Wayne the ability to, for example, bolt it in response.
I'll kill the Azusa in response to that. Yes, because otherwise you could just dump 3 lands onto the battlefield.
3 regular lands, 3 basic lands,
Yeah.
you could just play, but because these lands have a triggered ability, it doesn't quite work that way.
Yeah, smart stuff from Rosinski. Very impressive there. Dylan finally committing here to the Pyromancer Ascension. Pyromancer Ascension, excuse me. 1,000 pardons, ladies and gentlemen. Here's a little snaky boy.
Yeah, pretty late to the party. I mean, there was one on turn 1, but that got lightning helixed.
We don't often see the Sakura Tribe scout. I should say usually it's the Elder that gets it done, but the Sakura Tribe Scout a way for this land-heavy deck to continue to dump lands into play. Now, for those of you not familiar with the card, very simple one. It just says tap. You may put a land from your hand onto the battlefield.
There has been not a reprint, but a very similar version just recently in Dominaria.
Yes.
2 mana 1/3.
Dryad Greenseeker, yeah, that's right.
No, that's not what I mean. Is it Llanowar
Oh,
Scout?
Llanowar Scout, sorry, excuse me. Yep, no, Dryad Greenseeker draws you the cards, that's right. So, Pyromancer Ascension, getting a counter thanks to Pyromancer Ascension, even, getting a counter thanks to that Lightning Helix that Dylan has just cast to get rid of the Scout.
Yep.
One thing I'm going to be chatting with Wayne about a bit later on is the speed of the deck. I got the chance to, I caught up with him for dinner on Friday night, and we were talking about the list that he was playing. But one thing I didn't really explore is the speed, and obviously it has a pretty heavy burn component here. There's a lot of ways to point the point damage upstairs with Lightning Bolt, Lightning Helix, etc. But it seems to me that from this perspective alone, what we've seen here, that it is a touch slower than traditional Lightning Bolt decks.
Oh, I think it's actually quite a slow control deck. It just happens to have Pyromancer Ascension almost as a value card in there.
I see. Now, this is some hot technology here from Rosinski. Look at this.
He's prepared.
He came very ready to party. Look at that. And in Wooburg order as well. Hats off, Dennis Rosinski. That's great stuff from you today, my friend. Here's Cavern of Souls. Now, Rosinski obviously wanting to force down that Asusa loss, but seeking here. And is going to be able to do so through any amount of counter magic that Dylan might have. Now, we know he's only got the 4 copies of Remand, not playing anything like a Logic Knot or a Cryptic Command or anything else like that.
Yeah, but Dennis will not know this.
No.
You don't know the exact contents of a Jeskai Pyromancer Ascension deck when you face it on day 2 of a GP.
No, as we said, it's a Jeskai thing. Not everyone gets it. And now we see Asusa dump a bunch of lands into play. And this does give Dylan the opportunity to respond. See if he's got something. 3 cards in hand for the Irishman. See if he wants to deploy something. Looks like it might be a Path to Exile here. Yes, indeed. All right. So, Asusa finds the path home after a fair bit of seeking, and off she goes to the Exile Zone. Rosinski goes and fetches a beautiful basic forest there.
Mm-hmm. Very clear communication by Dennis. He mentioned multiple times that the bounce land trigger was still on the stack to return the Cavern of Souls, and even though the path was happening on top of that on the stack, he made it absolutely clear that he still had to return a land.
Yep. Very clear communication, and also for Rosinski here, a little bit of upside for returning that Cavern of Souls. Now they can come down, name Giant, and ensure that Primeval Titan resolves. Back to Dylan now. Simon, I'm not sure if you know the end of the story with Wayne and you giving him that nickname. So for those of you who didn't see this was at a GP about a year ago actually in Birmingham, where Wayne Dillon wrecked his opponent with Vendilion Click, and that caused you to pull this nickname out of thin air, which was pretty good. He then went and got himself the GP Las Vegas Vendilion Click playmat, right?
I did get to sign that playmat.
And he got you and me to sign it, right? About 6 months later, I moved to Glasgow, became friends with him and a bunch of other blokes from Glasgow as well. He came around to my place to play EDH, right? He gets his stupid, idiotic, very frustrating Gitrog monster deck out. unrolls this Vendilion quick playmat, and I'm like, I did that. I signed that months ago. It was ridiculous. But he does play with it. Although he doesn't play V-click too much in EDH. He prefers just sacrificing lands and playing them and irritating everyone else at the table by taking 15-minute long turns. But right now, playing at a very respectable clip here. Thing in the Ice coming down with 4 ice counters on it.
So you want to get Thing in the Ice unfrozen, and you want to get the Pyromancer Ascension active. Or it is actually active now with 2 counters, right? So we might see Wayne get busy soon.
Yes, indeed. Now, of course, the Thing in the Ice will only trigger once. You don't cast the copy that's made by the Ascension, so that means that each instance and sorcery, despite having 2 effects, will only chip away 1 ice counter. But all the same, Dylan in a reasonable spot here, depending on how he can deal with what Rosinski's next play is. Oh, wow, what is this? Zakama Primal Calamity. This is not a card that we've seen in this deck previously, Simon. Amulet Titan basically had its big top end in Primeval Titan.
No, I was fully expecting... Wow.
Oh, my goodness.
I was fully expecting Primeval Titan here.
And even with the red mana from the Cavern on Dinosaur here. Cast Zakama, untap all the lands, and all of a sudden now Dylan is in a world of hurt.
Destroy target artifact or enchantment.
Oh, no.
Maybe even... he won't be able to generate 2 red mana.
Yes.
Not with the lands that he has.
Won't be able to blast down the Thing in the Ice, but that Pyromaster Ascension is out of here very quickly. So is the Pyromancer Ascension. Simon, for those of you at home, is just shaking his head quietly whenever I misname the card, which I appreciate. So, Disenchant activated. Let's see what Rosinski's next trick is here.
Jeez.
Oh, no. Looks like it's going to be 6 mana, and we know what that means. We know what that means, my friends. Let's check the clock. Just going to look at my watch here. Oh, yep, it is indeed prime time. Wayne Dylan now going to have to work very, very hard to get himself out of this mess.
It was looking quite good, right? Pyromancer Ascension,
Yeah.
Thing in the Ice, a few lands.
And then all of a sudden, Zakama Primal Calamity. And it well and truly is a calamitous outcome here for the Irishman, who is going to have a very difficult, a huge uphill battle here to overcome this massive 9/9.
There's always the hope that Dennis doesn't pay for his pact.
Yes, that is a good out for Dylan here, I think.
Now red mana and a Graveyard Exile.
Oh my goodness, that Bajuka Bog there as well. That's this one. This one's just about in the book, Simon. You know, I don't like to call matches or games too early. You know, I'm very hesitant to do that. But I'd say this one looks like it might be all over Red Rover. Rosinski.
Dennis is on top of his pact.
Oh, yeah. Yep, he made a deal with the devil and he intends to pay. Let's see what Dylan's response to this is. He's going to read this card. He should know it. I've beaten him with it several times in EDH. He should know exactly how bad it is for him. Taste it. Taste it, Dylan. It's just unfortunate that I don't think we're going to see a massive Genesis wave after this, Karma. That's the true gentleman's way to play Magic. Here's a second Thing in the Ice. 1 card in hand here for Dylan.
This is Battlecruiser Magic.
Oh, yeah, look at this. As Richard Garfield intended, I think. I think this is what he had in mind when originally playtesting Alpha. He's like, it'll take us 25 years to get there, but when we do, it'll be perfect.
It's Godzilla's against ice monsters.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, it is. It's like a Japanese monster flick, isn't it? Giants crashing through the jungle. Big serpentine leviathans waiting to be awoken from an eldritch slumber. 3-headed dinosaurs crashing across the landscape. Ladies and gentlemen, what a time to be alive. Another big play for Rosinski by the look of things here. What's this one? Another Primeval Titan.
And this time with Slayer Stronghold active.
Oh, dear.
There was... Until now, there was never an amulet anywhere.
Mm-hmm.
So Dennis couldn't give his Primeval Titan haste immediately.
And Wayne Dylan, not a man who smiles too often or too readily, but I tell you what, he's enjoying himself here. He's just so ready to take the beating that's been prescribed to him here by Dr. Rosinski. So the Slayer's Stronghold, of course, giving the other Primeval Titan haste. That's going to give Rosinski 4 more lands to search up, which is why he didn't put his library back down on the battlefield. He hasn't even shuffled. Oh, my goodness. And imagine if an Amulet was in play as well.
Well, then it would actually be almost a lethal, pretty much a lethal attack, because you get to give your one of your creatures double strike
with
as well.
Slayer's Stronghold. Yeah, that's right.
Yeah, unfortunately, we didn't get to see that interaction.
There is the Slayer's Stronghold, but yes, we're not going to see it this time around, as you say. Sorry to cut you off there, Simon. And Wayne Dillon has had enough. He packs up the cards rather regretfully. He's like, oh, just one more card. I nearly had it, he says. There we go. We're going to hit the sideboards here. Amulet Titan, back up and about in Modern, Simon. It's pretty cool to see.
I love the deck. When Summerbloom was legal, I actually played it quite a bit. Mostly because it was the best deck in Modern for a while. But still now, this matchup, it seems almost unlosable. Because you're under no pressure. You have the Cavern of Souls. You have all the redundancy with your tutor effects. I think if Wayne doesn't have some high-impact sideboard cards, it could be a big problem.
I don't know that he has some high-impact cards, although one card that he does have, which is very interesting, is Boom Bust.
That's the split card that destroys one of your lands and one of theirs.
Yes.
Or all lands, but that's 6 mana, I believe.
I mean, that in the abstract, seems like a decent card to have, but yeah, I don't know if it's going to get too much done. Apart from that, Negate, Anger of the Gods, Surgical Extraction, Monastery Mentor, and a couple of Wear Tear. None of these cards immediately scream to me that they're going to be amazing. I mean, Wear Tear to take care of the Amulet, perhaps?
I think Wear Tear you have to bring in.
Mm-hmm.
The other, and the Boom Bust, I think you'll just always want to have, because dealing with the bounce land is actually huge.
Well, and the trick with Boom Bust, right, is that you target your own fetch land and one of their lands, and then fetch it in response to the into this, or before the spell resolves, you fetch, and so you don't lose a land. But it's a little cute, but it may get it done. I mean, yeah, it's a juicy target, those bounce lands.
So that I think will mean that Wayne has to consider taking out some of his burn spells, but then I'm failing to see a win condition in his deck. So do you really want to have Lightning Helixes in this matchup? I don't think so.
No, I mean,
there are the Scouts and the Azusa, but it's not really the card you want to see in your hand.
With the Ascension Online, Lightning Bolt and Lightning Helix both deal with the Primeval Titan.
That's true.
And, again, with the Ascension Online, a Zakama is much easier to shoot out of the sky when you've got access to things like Bolt and Helix. Obviously, Path to Exile, the gold standard here. I think Dillon's going to be leaning quite heavily on that card post-board. But I see what you're saying. We're talking about these cards in a best-case scenario. You're not always going to have the Ascension active by, the turn 3, turn 4 that
exactly,
you need
but maybe you can even take our Thing in the Eyes. Because honestly, its effect on the game is quite low.
It's actually very minimal, because think about this. Even if they've got Primeval Titan Zakama out, you bounce them back with the 7/8, they replay them, enjoy the benefits of their untap trigger or their fetching lands trigger, and I see this. Maybe it's not going to be Jeskai Thing after this.
No, just Jeskai.
Just Jeskai.
But I would like to see Jeskai Mentor after Sunday.
Yes, bring in those Monastery Mentors.
Because then you actually have a proactive game plan. You can just slam the Mentor on turn 3. Dennis Rosinski's deck is doing a lot of things, but it's not really good at killing 2/2s. That's not part of the game plan. Your game plan is to ignore those early creatures.
It's designed to go so big that all of this, the early aggression is invalidated. And if Rosinski has sideboarded in a way or adopted a position post-board where he thinks that, he can afford to continue with this go big plan, doesn't bring in the Abray, doesn't bring in the Dismember, then all of a sudden he's going to be called to an early mentor.
Yeah,
I like this.
I think that's the best plan of action.
Okay, well,
so maybe you keep in as many burn spells as you can fit in there, but you still have to cut some of them, and then you just go for kind of a stick a mentor, and then all my spells are going to stop you from winning long enough that the mentor wins in a few turns. It also fits really well with the Boom Bust, I feel, because you will have an army on the battlefield while delaying your opponent's plan, or even taking out all lands altogether.
I'm going to catch up with Wayne about this deck in much greater detail here, because I got the sort of the elevator pitch over drinks on the Friday night, but I'm very interested to talk about the sideboard, the angle of attack, all of this sort of stuff. So I'll be having a chat with Wayne probably when he comes over this weekend, to be absolutely ruined by me playing Rune in EDH. Oh, I can't. No, I'm posturing. I can't beat him. He's a very, very annoying player to play against. Although he's continuing. I know you're not hugely into EDH, but Wayne's pet EDH deck that he will not give up on is Neheb the Worthy. The mono red.
One of
the red guy that where you add red mana to your pool based on how much damage you've done.
Yes.
And we eviscerate him every time. He's never in it. It's always great. But then he gets the Gitrog monster out and the fun stops and, everyone goes home. So that's the way that Wayne likes to do business at the EDH table. Also the way he likes to do business when it comes to competitive Magic. Very much one of the players who believes that Magic is, or that fun is a zero-sum game. And if he's having all of it, then you're having none of it. But we'll see Rosinski go down to 6 now. That's a good sign here for Dylan. Facing, as you said, Simon, there, a bit of an uphill battle here.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely, but I think he has a shot there. Keeping Amulet of Vigor off the table is an important step, because otherwise the mana generation by the Amulet Titan deck is a problem. By the way, mulliganing, not such a big deal if you're playing all the bounce lands.
Sure.
The Karus from Ravnica.
Yep. Oh no, down to 5 now. This is bad news here for Denis Rosinski.
The scariest hands are the ones where you only have bounce lands.
Yeah.
Because then you're just not going to be able to play any land, and you have to mulligan
Yeah,
again.
exactly. Because that's the risk you play, right? That's the risk you take. If you have the one lander with a Simic Growth Chamber, you just play it. It immediately returns to your hand, and you're going to have a bad time.
That's not a great start.
So down to 5 for Rosinski. And just to give you a little bit of an insight into what's going on in the head of Wayne Dillon, he is just chanting down to 4, down to 4. Down to 4. That's what's going on in his head. I can guarantee that, my friends. I'd like to reiterate, just very quickly, sorry, Simon. I'd like to reiterate that Wayne and I are quite good friends, and this isn't coming out of a place of malice, I have to say, just to make things very clear here. Go on, sorry, Thing in the Ice.
Wayne has Thing in the Ice still in his deck after sideboarding. I saw it in his hand there. But also the Boom Bust, which could be absolutely backbreaking now that Dennis is on that mulligan. And
it looks like Dylan does have access to a fetch land, so we may see that play pattern we highlighted earlier where you target your own fetch land with a boom. Oh no, Rosinski still failing to hit those land drops. This one may already have been racked up here. Dylan's in a very commanding position now with Rosinski. I mean, how many bounce lands do you think are in his hand?
2.
2?
Oh, he doesn't have so many cards, so.
Well, here we go. Vesuva comes down as a Spire Bluff Canal.
Nice.
So now Rosinski with access to red and blue mana. But Dylan now, is he going to pull the trigger on this Boom Bust? Come on, Dylan, give the people what they want. Wayneski, get it done, my friend.
I mean, you could wait for a bounce land, but honestly, I think the one land that would enable Rosinski to even play a bounce land is probably the better choice.
Exactly, because Dylan would be preventing Rosinski from even playing one of these bounce lands anyway. Here's an Amulet of Vigor now.
Yeah, and suddenly you're giving your opponent more stuff to do.
Well, Dylan has a response as a Remand is going to return to the hand of Rosinski. Now, this will be great if Rosinski follows it up with a bounce land, because then the Boom Bust plan will be in full swing. Manamorpho's off the top here for Dylan. Rosinski, he can't be expecting a Boom Bust. He can't be playing around that specific card. There's no way.
It's really difficult to play around it.
Yes.
I think...
No, he's discarding. That's rough here. That may be enough to tempt Dylan into casting this Boom Bust here, as he finds a Hallowed Fountain off the top. Manamorphos to kick things off here for the Irishman. Thing in the Ice down to 2 counters. He's going to be able to chain together another Thing in the Ice. Oh, sorry, another Manamorphos here.
He might just flip it to have a 3-turn clock.
Flip and swing. Another Manamorphos off the top. That guarantees it here. Dylan surging ahead, and here's the Boom Bust. Get it done. Get it done, old son. And he's, look at that. With that boombastic play there, Mr. Boombastic himself takes it out. Wayne Dillon, Boom Bust targeting his fetch land, your Vesuva, cracks the fetch in response, and that is that. Rosinski happy to go to game number 3. Small musical interlude there from our fearless leader, Rich Hagen. Hope you enjoyed that one, my friends. Tell you what, Wayne Dillon enjoyed that one as well. And look, it's good to see Rosinski, a bit of humour on his face as well. He knows that he got an absolute pasting there. And that's just, you live by the sword, you die by the sword. You live by the bounce land, Simon, you die by the bounce land.
Absolutely.
And sometimes that's just how it goes. Sometimes you crush your opponent with Zakama. Sometimes you get boom busted out of the game. So Dylan's still relying on that thing in the ice post board. You suggested that perhaps that wasn't the best way forward for him. We did see there, however, how Metamorphose in particular is able to very, very speedily flip the 0-4.
Yeah, the question when you sideboard with this deck is really what is the correct mix of threats, answers, and other win conditions, like for example Lightning Helix. And I like the burn spells the least, because I think if you have a permanent like Awoken Horror or Monastery Mentor, those can actually win the game relatively quickly. If you're relying on resolving Pyromancer Ascension, ticking it up, and then burning your opponent out with Lightning Helixes and Lightning Bolts, I think that's too slow in the matchup. Maybe you could even find a configuration where you have all the thing in the ices and the 2 Monastery Mentors, but then do you still have enough spells to trigger all your permanents? This is the real question. Maybe you even take out the Ascension. I don't know how this deck works, but there are a lot of questions you have to answer.
Mulligan now for Rosinski as he goes down to 6 and scries to the bottom. At least he's got a land to play here on turn number 1. We'll see what Dylan's up to now. Flying high after that big shock, like boom, that finished off game number 1 here. But Rosinski seems to be on a much steadier footing this time around. Simon.
Yeah. Mulligan to 6 with lands to play is fine for this deck. It is not. You don't always have the perfect opening hands if your deck relies on that many pieces to function correctly. But this should be a very decent start for Rosinski, who gets to play the game he wants to play. Just 1 land a turn, sometimes more.
Secure Tribe Scout. Thank you to Rosinski there for observing the lands behind spells. Looks like he may be one of the lands before spells person by default. People die by default there. Thanks for making the adjustment, Dennis, old mate. Certainly a weird card, the Scout.
Mm-hmm. There have been effects like this throughout Magic's history.
Yeah.
Maybe the most prominent one is Exploration. But on creatures, it's a bit more interesting, because there is always this chance to kill them, and you don't even get the effect that you wanted to have.
On top of that as well, just it breaks one of the very fundamental rules of Magic. Not only that you can put more than 1 land into play, but putting a land into play at instant speed. Mm-hmm. That's something that doesn't happen very often. Oh no. Boom goes the dynamite once again. Does Dennis Rosinski have the response? Does he have the spell pierce? Because in response to the boom bust, Dylan, once again, going to crack that Scalding Tarn here. But Rosinski with the spell pierce, boo.
Why does Rosinski let the fetch resolve? That seems risky.
It's just giving Dylan a chance to respond here. But Dylan, as we know, not playing any spell pierces of his own. So Rosinski saving himself from the fate that ended game number 2 there. Ancient Stirrings the play now for Rosinski.
Do we have to mention how absurd Ancient Stirrings is in this deck also?
How absurd is it?
It finds Amulet of Bloom, but also you can just double up on bounce lands if you don't have them. You can play Walking Ballista like Dennis Rosinski does.
Yeah.
Engineered Explosives. A bunch of your lands are also combo pieces. Mm-hmm. So another deck where Ancient Stirrings is really, really strong.
Yeah, actually, that's very true. Often we see it in artifact-based decks because that's typically what you see people take with Ancient Stirring. But then again, in Tron, it will find the land that you need. And I guess Rosinski, despite playing, every colour of the rainbow in his list, it's still, Ancient Stirrings is still, yes, a very, very useful card to find the particular piece you need. Back to Dylan now, who doesn't seem to have too many pieces to pull together here. A couple of Serum Visions I can see in his hand. He's going to hit his 4th land drop, no worries. Path to Exile, also an option here for the Irishman.
I don't think you want to path the Scout if you can help it.
There's the Monastery Mentor, and
Nice.
also a Thing in the Ice. Now, this will be interesting, Simon. Here are the 2 win conditions that he wants. He's going to put 1 above and 1 below decks, and it's interesting to see he's gone with the Mentor on top
I like that a lot.
and the Thing on the bottom.
Also, the Thing in the Ice and Monster Mentor don't have the best synergy with each other.
Yes, of course. Yeah, it's kind of one or the other type situation here, because if you flip a Thing with a Mentor out, you're going to have a very bad time. Back to Rosinski now. Looks like Dylan is holding off on a lot of that, a lot of those cantrips and other interactive spells until he has that Mentor down, and I like that. He's got his 5th land for next turn, so he can, at the barest minimum, go Mentor, spell, and get a little army in a can going. Another Sakura Tribe Scout here, and again Dylan holding off on killing it, which I like. Basic land in hand for Dylan. So we'll see here the Mentor, probably followed up by a Lightning Bolt and a Serum Visions. And my real question for you, Wayne, is did you bring Monastery Mentor tokens? Of course you did. So a little 1/1 prowess, and we're going to see another one here. So this one playing out just like we said here, Simon.
Mm-hmm.
And you mentioned, as we were talking about sideboarding, how much you liked the Monastery Mentor plan post-board, especially when Rosinski has so little going on. He's going to have a hard time dealing with this onslaught.
This is very likely going to be a 2-turn clock. So Dennis has to respect that. On the other hand, there is an Amulet in play, 5 mana already for Rosinski. If he has a Primeval Titan and he can cast it this turn, I think that Wayne is just losing very, very quickly.
Well, there's the Summoner's Pact. You're rubbing your hands in anticipations here, Simon. What are we going to go and get? It's going to be just that card you mentioned, Primeval Titan.
Beautiful.
He needs 1 more land to cast it here. Almost certainly has it as well.
Yeah, I don't think he would summon respect for it otherwise. Oh, yes.
Oh, yes. Tick-tock on the clock, and the polka don't stop because it is prime time, ladies and gentlemen. Let's go and get 2 more lands, says Rosinski. And, of course, they're going to come into play and untap themselves thanks to that Amulet of Vigor.
Yeah, and what you want to get is the default, exactly, is a red-white bounce land. And that's Slayer's Stronghold.
Yep.
So that your Primeval Titan gets +2/+0 and haste and vigilance. So that way you get an additional trigger from the Titan and effectively 8 points of damage.
So Dylan going to be under siege now as an 8/6. Primeval Titan's going to get busy. And Rosinski, before he shuffles his deck, is going to search out 2 more lands.
And the second fetch is...
usually Vesuva.
Well,
sorry, not Vesuva, Teleria West.
It's the more interesting one. There is a Teleria West on the battlefield. So you could just get that with... get that back to your hand with a bounce land. I think you might even want to get a Pact of Negation or something like that, because you might be a bit concerned about that bust in Wayne Dillon's graveyard.
So, Simic Growth Chamber, Teleria West. Both of them untap, of course, and going to return the tapped Teleria West to hand here for Rosinski. Now that transmutes, as you say, for any number of cards. You mentioned before about Ancient Stirrings being able to fetch something like an EE. Guess what else can? Teleria West. I really like the little toolbox. Very subtle little toolbox that Rosinski has sort of hidden away on the top shelf of his garage here, but I really like it.
So Teleria West can find Summoner's Pact, Pact of Negation, any land,
EE,
Engineered Explosives, and Walking Ballista.
Yep.
So that's quite a lot of cards that the land can fetch. So Dennis decides that he's not really concerned about losing his Primeval Titan. His plan is to just play another one next turn. And because Wayne has only 6 mana, there's, for example, no chance for him to go Bust and Path to Exile, which makes a big difference. because clearly Path to Exile followed by Bust would win him the game.
One of Dylan's biggest problems right now is white mana. He has 2 copies of Path to Exile in hand, one for the Titan on the battlefield, another for the Titan that will almost certainly be coming down next turn, or perhaps it'll be as a Karma, we'll see. But he's only got 1 white source, so I think his best course of action here, cast this Opt, of course, get a Prowess trigger and a couple of and another little token here. Draw a card, or scry first at least, and if he can find a fetch land, he's in business with double Path. That may help him see his way clear. He obviously likes the look of the card summon, but is it good enough?
No way to tell. Maybe thinking about attacking for lethal, but I think that's very optimistic.
Going to go below decks now. Let's have a look at the top card. It's a Metamorphose. That's a nice one.
That's huge.
That's a great draw here for Dylan, as he's going to be able to not only get another Prowess trigger, another Monk. He's also going to be able to filter away into white mana. Do a Path. I think he'll hold off on the Metamorphose for now. We'll see. It looks like.
But why? Isn't it better to hold open the white mana and have the Path available?
Seems like it to me as well, seeing as the Metamorphose would dig it another card deeper. He may just cast this Metamorphose now for some extra value.
Yeah, but then you should always start with the Metamorphose so that you have the most information.
Check this out. Rosinski's Forest from the Path to Exile untaps thanks to the Amulet of Vigor. Tech.
Yep, completely irrelevant, but
but
cute.
still cool. In comes the team. These guys cracking across for 10 here.
Imagine you make this elaborate plan to win on the spot, and then they fetch an island and spell pierce your your winning spell.
Yeah, rough. Yeah, that's what Dylan might have been worried about. Like, obviously, you might have a guttural response. It's terrible. I've got to be very careful. So, Rosinski pays for his pact. He's thinking about it. He tapped the mana. Why has he untapped his lands? Is he thinking about the best lands to tap to pay for it?
Yeah. First he just left some lands untapped, and now he's reconsidering which lands are the best to tap here. He could, for example, also just tap 2 of his bounce lands, but there is a chance that he wants to return that Tolera Rest to his hand. So it has maybe some advantages to have it tapped already.
So Dylan, as we know, sitting on a Metamorphose and a Path to Exile in hand, in addition to a Steam Vents. Now, one thing that he will be able to do if he fires off both that Metamorphose and the Path is that next turn he'll have 2 extra tokens with which he can attack.
Mm-hmm.
So maybe that's his.
The way he has played this, he's also hiding the fact that he has a Path. So I think that's the biggest advantage of that line of the line of play that he chose.
Yep.
And he probably did the math thinking that even if he casts the Metamorphose and draws an additional card, he wouldn't have Rosinski anywhere near dead. Looking that he's on 10, he would have needed 4 more spells or some kind of burn spell, and that was just really unrealistic.
I like the point you make as well about hiding information. Dylan has 3 cards in hand, and by firing off the Path to Exile to get pushed through the damage with the white mana that he had, that very clearly telegraphs, like, I want to end this game quickly, and I'm going to leverage my removal aggressively. I'm not going to wait to see and play a more reactive game. I want to be proactive. So Rosinski, you're looking at Dylan's mana base and going, well, he's got triple blue and double red available. I'm not going to have to face down another Path to Exile, probably. I really like this slight misdirection from Wayne Dylan and the way that he's fed a little bit of misinformation to his opponent with that Path to Exile play. It didn't make sense at first blush, but now you look at it and it goes, actually, wow, that's a really keen and clever play to make here.
I agree. And
well, here's Rurik Thar, the Unbowed. This is going to demand an answer here from Dylan. Metamorphose.
And that's in response to Rurik Thar, of course, because Wayne is on 6. Rurik Thar is a big problem here.
Huge problem here, because it will mean that Path to Exile, well, the perfect card here for Rosinski.
Well, 1 point of life basically deciding the game here.
Yes, here, because Dylan would, of course, been able to have floated white in response, and then once it resolved, he would be then able to path it. But right now, man, he can't really do anything, can he?
That's a Japanese Rurik Thar. But I hope Wayne Dillion is aware of that final line of text.
Rough stuff here for Dylan. It was looking good for a moment there. Can he still push through enough damage though?
If he had gone for more damage last turn, there might be a chance. But here, I don't really see it.
He's going to path his own monk token here to get another one and a couple more prowess triggers. Go and fetch a basic land. Probably get that plains.
He should path a tapped monk token, by the way. There is a very realistic chance of Rurik attacking this turn.
Yes.
So, well, it probably doesn't matter, but it would be a bit better. Because the thing is, I think Dennis doesn't even want to give Rurik haste here.
Yeah, no, he passes.
He doesn't want it to trade it with monk tokens, of course. Next turn, he doesn't have double strike available, right? So the Rurik will be forced to attack. It's an interesting spot.
Doesn't have trample either. Doesn't have trample. So Dylan essentially locked out. This Rurik is doing a very good impression of Iona here.
Yeah, but only until Dennis has to attack with it.
Yeah.
And then Wayne will block with almost all of his creatures. Oh, Rosinski has...
What's he found?
He has a Tarka. Can he cast it, though? I think it's too expensive right now. Let's see.
He had to pay for his pact. He's counted up his mana.
No, he has a bounce hand. That's 2 more mana.
Oh, because of the Amulet of Vigor. Wow. A masterclass from Rosinski here. Man, what a special brew he's put together. It's quite incredible to see the way that Rosinski has just continued to find all of these spicy, techie answers to deal with what Dylan's up to. Here's a ton of mana, he says. And Dylan's like, mate, what do you got? Get on with it, my friend. Give me what you're cooking with. It's going to be Zakama, Primal Calamity.
If Dylan is on 7, he wins that game and that match.
Because he can then just path the Rurik Thar. Oh, no. Poor Wayne Dylan going down by just barely anything in it, separating these two players here. And we see now Rosinski's going to start shooting down Dylan's army. And, of course, Dylan, again, cannot cast the spells in his hand lest he takes 6 from the Rurik Thar. When you're out, is your opponent forgetting their lethal trigger? I don't like your chances.
It also doesn't seem like Dennis is about to fumble here. Seems very much on top of things.
No. He's played very well. He's played exceptionally well throughout this entire... I mean, we talked earlier about the way he was playing his lands, tapping his mana, all that sort of stuff. This guy knows his eggs. He knows what's up. I don't think we've seen much of a misstep from him at all. Now, Rosinski is going to have to attack with the Rurik Thar. Also going to attack, of course, with the Zakama. That's going to prompt a double block here from Wayne Dylan. And Dennis Rosinski, a very happy man indeed. My goodness me. Look at that. Got his mate in the yellow hat at the back going, oh, wow. Fantastic effort from you, old son. And Wayne Dylan, bit of a shrug of the shoulders. Unfortunately for him, he moves down to 7-3 after getting off to such a great start. Unfortunately, Jeskai thing not being able to hold it together as we head closer and closer towards the top 8. What a match we saw, though. 2 fantastically, wildly entertaining decks.
I think if you win like that, you also deserve a little bit of celebration.
Oh,
right?
yeah.
Game 1 was amazing. Game 2, Dennis didn't play lands for the first 3 turns. And Game 3, a single life point deciding the match.
Really exciting Magic. Very, very cool decks as well. And we're going to bring you more of it, my friends. We've got to go to a break, but on the other side of it, we've got more silliness coming your way from Good Morning Magic. We'll see you back at GP Prague after this. What's up, my friends? Welcome back to GP Prague. Live coverage of this modern tournament continues with me, Riley Knight, and with him, Simon Gertzen. My friends, we've got some Time Walk magic coming your way, and for fans of mill decks around the world, I have some good news. We are going to see the Hadron crabs fly thick and fast, Simon. As we head into this Time Walk match, we have Richard Beebe playing the truest form of Magic, the Gathering. It is blue-black mill. And already, Cranchbuller is having to look at what Shelldock Isle does. Of course, many of you who've played Cube will be infinitely familiar with this card. You can hide away a card underneath it from the top of your library, and then, if there are 20 or fewer cards in a library, you can cast it for free.
Yep, very good card in Cube.
Yep, I would say a staunchly first pickable card in Cube.
Yep.
I'll take it.
In 40-card formats, it's tremendous. In 60-card formats, a bit less.
Well, BB is looking to make it do the work that it would be doing in a Cube draft here with his deck. We don't often see mill decks. The mill dream has not been particularly live for, a long time, perhaps ever. I mean, remember, the last time we had actual real mill decks was Nephalia Drownyard Control many years ago, maybe. Mm-hmm. But here is Hadron Crab, one of the greatest enablers of this strategy here. And it's always a joy when the crab comes down, the land comes down afterwards, and they say, I'll target you.
Clearly. And that was already an interesting decision. Do you target the crab, or do you go straight for the life total? Ivica deciding that a longer game is fine, maybe also because of this hand of bunch of Eidolons.
Yeah, here's a little bit of a problem here for BB because he needs to get one of his mill engines going. He needs a Manic Scribe, he needs a Mesmeric Orb, he needs something like that. Because relying on casting Glimpse, the Unthinkable, and all the rest of these other cards that, Visions Beyond, whatever else, the cards that are going to trigger the Eidolon, that's going to be problematic because Cranchbuller is going to have access to enough burn over the course of the match, especially if the Eidolons are left to do their work.
Yeah, and it's a classical race where Ivica is attacking the life total and BB is attacking the library, but this means Eidolon is almost all upside.
Now, this is post-board. You'll see that this is game number 3 between BB and Cranchbuller, and this means that perhaps BB has brought in his copies of Fatal Push. That would certainly help things enormously, but one card that I really am very interested to see is Crypt Incursion. Crypt Incursion says exile all creatures from opponents' graveyards and gain life equal to that number of cards. Oh, sorry, 3 times that number of cards. Mm-hmm. You gain 3. I really butchered explaining how that card works. Basically, you gain a bunch of life and exile their creatures. He's breaking and entering. Does that still trigger the Eidolon, even though it costs a squillion?
On the stack, it's only breaking.
Okay.
So it's a 2 caster cost spell.
And this is interesting. Ladies and gentlemen, have a look at BB's life pad here. And if you notice down in the bottom, he's not only keeping track of the life totals as you would normally, he's also keeping track of how many cards are in Cranchbuller's library. And this is almost like another life total here.
It is. And it's actually a life total that decreases by 1 every turn.
That's very true. You get a little sulfuric vortex.
Yeah.
It also draws them a card, unfortunately. But still, hey, you'll take it. Here's the Eidolon coming across for 2 now. BB down to 16. Hasn't taken too much of a hit here, considering that... he's on a very healthy life total, considering that Cranchbuller is now going into his 3rd turn. Here's the second Eidolon. He's going to knock Cranchbuller down to 13, but he's not too worried about that.
Well, he should be at some point. I don't expect him to play the 3rd one, because then I would be concerned about locking yourself out of the game.
Jace's Phantasm also coming in out of the board here for BB. This is a 1-mana 1/1 with flying that gets +4/+4, or is it +5/+5 even, perhaps, when...
No, I think it becomes a 5/5.
It becomes a 5/5, yes, that's right. After you've milled an opponent for enough. Gets a little upgrade there. As long as they have 10 or more cards in the graveyard. And Cranchbuller certainly does. So that's a big beater.
Mm-hmm. Well, also one that cost him 4 life, but it's very likely to stop those Eidolons from attacking.
And Cranchbuller without a good answer to it as well. We know that the red-based decks don't have great answers to huge creatures. He may have a Path to Exile, but I think bringing in Path to Exile against blue-black mill is the definition of optimism, ladies and gentlemen.
No, and you have other cards to bring in already. Usually, you want to have some kind of artifact and enchantment removal for mesmeric orbs, ensnaring bridges, and so on.
BB going to snap off a block here, fire off a block in with that Eidolon hitting the bin. We may see Crunchpillar deploy another one to the battlefield here. Lightning Helix to take care of the Phantasm. So did have the answer for it. Did cost him 2 cards.
I like how Crunchpillar is playing this, really almost controlling
Yes.
the game.
So gains 1, ultimately, thanks to the Lightning Helix offsetting the life loss of the Eidolon. Back down to 13 now, however. It looks like we're going to see a Lava Spike. And BB on 7, his life total has become a little more precarious, and he doesn't have any engines going. He needs Hedron Crab. He needs Mesmeric Orb. He needs Fraying Sanity, Simon.
I think Mesmeric Orb is not really great against the burn deck because it doesn't untap so many permanents.
Okay.
The really interesting part here is that Crunchpillar was forced to tap out of Skullcrack mana, and BB might have a Crypt Incursion to fire off here. And that's absolutely huge. If you can gain, 18 life. Let's see how many creatures are in the graveyard.
1, 2, 3, 3.
Oh, that's a lot less than I thought.
Only not a lot. Did you mean a lot fewer than you thought?
Yes.
Still 9 life's huge. 9 life's an enormous buffer.
It's still a 3-for-1, effectively.
Yes, yeah, and that's a good way to look at it. There is the Crypt Incursion. Yeah, look at this. Target you. And Crunchpillar is having to read. He obviously hasn't played a lot of Pauper, where this card sometimes gets it done. So take 2 down to 5, and now 1, 2. Now we counted 3. That's it. So netting 7 life there. It's going to go back up to 14 now.
And Crypt Incursion can also target yourself. So BB has 2 creatures in his own graveyard as well.
He's got the Hedron Crab and, of course, that Phantasm. So a second copy of Crypt Incursion. He's playing 3 copies. A nice... I mean, it does get played in Pauper a little bit, or it used to at least, in the old Mystical Teachings decks, because it serves 2 roles. It gains you a bunch of life against the aggressive decks, and it also is an incidental hate card against any kind of reanimation strategy or any recursive graveyard creatures.
It reminds me a little bit of Gnaw to the Bone, which is something that the Dredge decks can play to beat burn decks.
But it has the advantage, the upside of getting rid of Vengevine's Bloodghast. And so
they're very different cards, but they serve a similar purpose in the same matchups for the same mana cost.
Yes. So Crunchpillar, I think, will think twice before tapping out a Skullcrack again. No, he won't. No, ignore me, ladies and gentlemen. Don't listen to a word I say. Oh,
yeah,
my words taste so good.
Didn't want to risk locking himself out too early. This way, he has 1 more spell available to him before the Eidolons lock him. But it does make additional life gain very problematic now.
So BB, a ton of cards in hand. Oh, here's a look at the bottom card of the thanks to the Sheldock Isle. I didn't get a good glimpse at that.
It might have been a glimpse.
It may have been a glimpse. I may have glimpsed the unthinkable. So in hand here for BB. It looks like he stopped keeping track of how many cards Crunchpillar has milled over here. He did it after that breaking and entering, but I haven't seen it since.
Yeah, I don't know about this keeping track of the library. I honestly think it's easier to just count the graveyard, and then there are 9 permanents visible, 3 in exile and 6 on the battlefield. So you just calculate the amount of cards in the library real quick.
31, 32. 35 cards in the graveyard, or in the library of Crunchpillar, and look, yeah, we can see there. Oh, 35. All right, I must have miscounted. We can see there BB now keeping track of it. Again, important because of that Sheldock Isle. He's still a ways off casting it. I don't know. I don't think much of his position right now with this double Eidolon. He's got a lot of a long, hard slog uphill.
A creature would be good, I think. Another Jace's, what is it? Phantasm?
Jesus Phantasm is indeed. 1 mana 5/5 flyer. Because he's also, taking 4 return just from the Eidolons as it is. Them attacking. Overall, this matchup doesn't seem to favour the mill deck.
No. 20 is a lot less than 60. BB also didn't have the super explosive draws with a bunch of archive traps and so on. And he might only get one more spell before the Eidolons lock him out.
So Glimpse the Unthinkable in hand. Looks like Polluted Delta as well here. And he's taking his time with thinking about what he wants to do. Finally commits the Delta to the board.
The tricky part here is he might have to not play anything so that he's at least live to draw something else. If there's something in his deck that could win him the game, but I doubt it, honestly.
Eidolons hit him for 4 down to 5, and then he'll have one more spell that costs 3 or fewer. Looks like he's going to fire something off here. Yep. A Fraying Sanity. All right, so here's one of these engines we talked about. BB. He's going to get out of 5 now, take 2 Eidolon triggers. This puts Crunchbiller in a fantastic position. If he draws any action off the top, nope, instead finds a land.
I think even if he doesn't, because what can
BB do?
What are BB's outs?
Because the Fraying Sanity isn't doing anything. There's no other engine cards. Even a Mesmeric Maw would be better here. I know I keep talking about this card, but it is an important engine. And BB's on 1. He's facing down 2 Eidolons. Looks like the bad guys are going to take this one out. It is Empire Strikes Back, ladies and gentlemen. A bit of a downer ending for fans of Mill around the world. Richard Beebe flying the flag proudly. But Crunchbiller, whoop, whoop. That's the sound of the fun police. He's here to let his opponent know that no, this silliness will not stand. Here's a Mind Funeral. And, yep, you remembered. Crunchbiller finds the line, ladies and gentlemen. And Richard Beebe goes down swinging. There's nothing nobler, Simon, than dying with a Mind Funeral or a Glimpse the Unthinkable on the stack.
Would you say there are more Mill fans around the world or more Burn fans around the world?
I would say that the Mill fans have a louder voice, generally speaking, but probably Burn decks have a larger following. Yes, indeed. I mean, we can't all be people of great taste and refinement. We're going to jump over to another Time Walk match now between Stefan Fontevin and Felix Stenitzer here. And look at this. Amulet Titan back once again. But this will be a crazy one because Stefan Fontevin with white-black Martyr of Sands. I love this deck.
So we had Jeskai Thing in the Ice against Amulet Titan, and now an almost identical Amulet Titan deck facing off against the white-black life gain deck.
We're going to speed things up here a little bit, my friends. For those of you who aren't familiar with white-black Martyr, it is a deck that surprisingly revolves around the card Martyr of Sands, which says reveal, you pay 1, sacrifice it, and reveal X white cards from your hand and gain 3 times X life. In addition to that, a bunch of other ways to abuse that high life total. Sometimes it revolves around things like Gristlebrand, Children of Corliss, that sort of thing. We'll see exactly what Fontevin is up to here, although Stenitzer is really taking things to the next level with an Azusa, Culny Garden, and now Amulet of Vigor. Stenitzer did have the option of keeping that Culny Garden untapped, chose not to take it. Back to Fontevin now. Doesn't have too much going on for himself at the moment. And that's the danger of the early path to exile because it did give Stenitzer an extra mana source here, Simon.
Yep. And Stenitzer is threatening Titan mana on the next turn. He doesn't have to have it, but with 4 Titans and 4 Summoners packed in the deck, you are very likely to have a Titan once you reach 6 mana.
Teleria West, we're going to see it a Field of Ruin in response to the Amulet trigger, which is still going to give Stenitzer access to 6 mana for a Primeval Titan here.
Yeah, I don't think Stenitzer minds this too much.
Nope.
It's probably the only reasonable thing that Stefan could do there.
So, what can he find here? Stenitzer does have the Summoners packed, goes up and searches for a Primeval Titan. Going to get 2 more lands there, Simic Growth Chamber and a Teleria West, which will be bounced to the hand. and then immediately
Transmutes.
transmuted. Thank you for a walking ballista here. Attack with the Azusa. Taste it, Fondafine, down to 19, down to 18 even. Whew. The beats don't stop. Back to Fondafine. Again, this is game 2. These players will have had a chance to sideboard. And it's going to be Squadron Hawk. And this is one of the cards that helpfully fills your hand full of white cards to reveal 2 Martyr of Sands.
It's a great card. Not in this matchup, though. The Primeval Titan deck, once again, looks super strong here.
It's had a bit of a hiatus. It hasn't really been around for a long time. But all of a sudden, it's back once again. So double Squadron Hawks there, revealed from Fondafine. They're in the hand.
Bit of double striking action.
Yes, we're going to see a Sunhome, Guild of the Fortress of the Legion, excuse me. Sunhome, Fortress of the Legion.
Very good against Death Touch creatures.
Yes, indeed, as Eiley, the Eternal Pilgrim, won't be able to hustle and bustle in the way she normally would with Death Touch there. And Fondafine not really giving us the showcase of what this deck is capable of, unfortunately. Sorry, of that which this deck is capable. Shouldn't end a sentence with a preposition, Simon. I do apologise to all the purists in the audience. I know you've come to expect a high standard, and I apologise for letting you down there a little bit. And also letting, the Team White-Black Martyr down is Stefan Fondafine, who gives it up after Felix Stenitzer too strong with Amulet Titan. Now, Simon, this is the second time. Now, we can't get too sort of focused on the fact that we've just happened to see the deck twice, overperform twice on camera in this round, but I have to say, still, it was a convincing performance from both Amulet Titan players, and the deck seems to have a little bit more depth to it than we first thought.
It looks like a lot of fun. It looks like it has the consistency it needs, but also the power level. And this was always the case. You would have to really look at which matchups you want to play with the deck and which matchups are really difficult for you. I don't know, what about Hardened Scales? What about Humans? What about White-Blue Control? I think Control is actually a pretty good matchup. So maybe that's the reason why these 2 players are doing well.
A couple of new innovations as well in the Amulet deck. We've seen, the 0-cost cards, the X-cost artifacts and what have you with Ancient Stirrings.
Walking Ballista, I like.
Yeah, it's very good, and indeed, of course, the Karma. But right now, my friends, that is that for this round here at GP Prague. We're going to take a quick break. On the other side of it, we'll be back with Tim and with Frank. So stick around. Plenty more modern action coming your way from the Czech Republic. We'll see you back here very soon.